Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DSO Secrets. I'm Ken Kaufman, your host for today. Very, very excited about the guest we have that's joining us and the topic that we're going to be covered. As I jump into this is all setting the stage for the DEO Growth Summit that is coming up in June. If you have not gotten your tickets, please make sure to get those. Super excited to introduce our guest here. So our guest speaker is Kirk Huntsman, and Kirk has a long, storied history in the DSO space. So as a seasoned entrepreneur and corporate executive with over 35 years of experience, Kirk has helped revolutionize the business of dentistry as a very early pioneer in the DSO space. He founded Dental One, which later became Dental One Partners. And by 2009, his company had grown to become one of the leading DSOs in the country with over 165 practices in 15 states. He's now focused on revolutionizing the medical world as the co-founder of Vivos Therapeutics, a world leader in effective treatments for breathing and sleep disorders. Kirk, we're so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Ken. Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got some material to talk about and present. I'll set the stage here that as dental practices in general are struggling to maintain margins and struggling to find new patients to grow in what's proven to be a somewhat challenging first quarter of the year, and it could very well extend throughout the year. I think what you have to say here, Kirk, should perk up the ears of a lot of dentist entrepreneurs, DSO leaders who are trying to figure out how to grow their organizations. And one of the smartest ways to do that is always look at your current patient base and see, is there more ways that you can serve them? Is there more ways that you can help them? And I think you're bringing a solution here. So I'll turn the time over to you. You can run through your presentation and I might jump in with a few questions here and there.
Good. Well, absolutely. And I agree totally with that. I think it's always easier to serve your current customers at a higher level than it is to go find new customers. So thank you for the time. Thank you, those of you who are joining or listening in. I appreciate the opportunity to share what we're doing here at Vivos. Vivos is a company that's uniquely positioned to assist DSOs in capturing more market share and delivering higher levels of service to their patients. We have some technological breakthroughs that we feature here at Vivos, which makes this a unique value proposition. And today we're going to talk about how these recent technological breakthroughs are opening up the entire $10 billion North American market for treating sleep apnea. So let's just dive right in. We believe firmly that airway-centric dentistry is the future, and I'm going to tell you why. The airway is obviously very closely connected to the mouth and all things. It used to be when I first got into dentistry and, we talked about bruxism and we talked about other conditions. They were related. Bruxism was always related to stress. And now we know that it's not necessarily stress that causes people to grind their teeth and ruin all that good dentistry that you guys are doing. But it's a sleep issue. It's a breathing issue. It's something that's happening subconsciously. And there are close to 24 different indicators or markers in dentistry that dentists see every day that are actually indicators of a deeper and more pernicious condition known as obstructive sleep apnea or some other breathing condition that's causing that patient to have something that's manifesting in the oral cavity, but is actually putting their lives or their health at risk. So we think airway-centric dentistry is the future. It's probably one of the last big frontiers. And so we're going to talk about why. First of all, the size of the market. The size of this market is absolutely stunningly large. There's over 1 billion people worldwide that suffer from obstructive sleep apnea and breathing disorders. Over 80% of those people remain undiagnosed and untreated. There's a huge problem with diagnosis, and there's a huge problem with these patients getting into the proper treatment. The problem with obstructive sleep apnea and these other breathing and sleep disorders is that they're all linked to very serious physical and mental health issues. This is no longer Uncle Bob who sleeps on the couch and snores up a chimney and just makes all kinds of noise at night, and everybody laughs at him. This is no longer a laughing matter. We now know that snoring is related to sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is comorbid. And actually, the Mayo Clinic recently came out and said that not only is sleep apnea comorbid with cardiovascular disease, it actually causes cardiovascular disease. And so the things on this list here, this list could go on for pages of the things, mental and physical disorders that sleep apnea is either comorbid with or causes. And so these are very serious conditions. They are things that afflict and plague every age group, every ethnicity, every demographic. So no matter what your practice, what type of patients you have in your practice, sleep apnea is affecting that patient population. And so the question is, why, how many patients are out there? Why should you be interested in this? And the answer is that nearly half of your patients have OSA. And if you think about that for a minute, it's just a staggering number of people that are walking around not knowing why they have no energy during the day, why they wake up groggy and not fully rested after a night's sleep, why they're snoring and they're getting kicked out of the bedroom, why all these things are happening to them. And the reality is that half of your patients have OSA, and you should care about that, because if you don't treat them, somebody else will. It's just this train has left the station. It's happening. And we're going to show you why and how new technologies have made this available for not just DSOs, but dentistry at large, and how these technologies are changing the shape of what dentistry will be in the future. So you might wonder, how do we know that half of the patients have OSA? Well, we do right now through our network of offices across the country. We have nearly 2,000 providers that are trained up in Vivos. Some of those are DSO practices, some of them are independent offices, but we do over 8,000 home sleep tests a month. And in those home sleep tests, we know from the results of those home sleep tests, and you'll see the rings here that we use this technology from a company right here in Colorado. I'm here basically at the Denver International Airport. We actually have a training facility here called the Vivos Institute, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But
and is your training institute right near that airport? Because that airport is near nothing.
That airport is near nothing, and we're out here near nothing ourselves. Actually, okay. there's about 15 or 20. Actually, we are about a mile away from the Gaylord Rockies. So if anybody's gone to the Dykema conference,
there you go. Yeah.
We're about a mile. Our office, our training facility here is located about a mile away from that.
Very nice. So at a minimum, our listeners, if they're going to Dykema, should come and check in.
Oh, absolutely. Come by and see us. We're 7001 Tower Road. We're in the building that used to house the Frontier Airlines Training Center. So we took over that building, and we're there. But this technology is really fascinating. One of the challenges with sleep apnea, which we're going to talk about, is just for dentists to try to get into a dialogue with their patients about it. How do we know what patients to look for? How do we know what patients are having this? How do we initiate a conversation? We've got an entire program featuring these rings, which are FDA cleared for both adults and children, and they correlate. The data correlates up to 98.6% with the old polysomnogram. Got to go into the office or into the sleep lab and get a sleep test. These rings are highly, highly useful. Well, that's how we know that half of your patients have it. We test every month, and half of the people come back with mild, moderate, or severe sleep apnea. Let me just share with you a little bit about why we think that every one of you on this call needs to be thinking about this. In up to 98% of patients with OSA, the condition is due to abnormal anatomical features of the soft tissues and or the structures of the maxillomandibular skeleton that cause a disproportionate anatomy of the airway. Translated into plain English, the reason why people can't breathe is their airways are too small and they're obstructed by a lack of development in the jaws. That's exactly the purview of the dentist. So when we get down to, let me see if I can, hang on a minute here. When we get down to sort of where this comes from, the OSA actually begins with a lack of development in the orofacial and cranial areas of the body. So we're talking about midfacial maxillary hypoplasia, nasal function and structural anomalies, mandibular retrognathia, ankyloglossia, cranial and postural distortions. Those are the developmental issues that give rise to what the dentists are looking at every day, the orofacial and postural anomalies. So these are narrow palatal vaults, malocclusion, bruxism, crossbites, nasal resistance, all of these things that the dentists are seeing every day. Patients that have postural issues or facial malalignment, all of these things actually give rise to the breathing and sleep disorders. And right there we find there's the obstructive sleep apnea and the mouth breathing and the upper airway resistance. So these things, though, are all the precursors and what we say is comorbid with the other chronic health issues that everybody knows and that we're spending trillions of dollars in the United States to conquer. It's these things down here that everybody focuses on, but what dentists need to understand is that all of those things are linked to and downstream from, they're downstream from the orofacial and cranial developmental problems that we're talking about. And so dentists are uniquely positioned to be able to help patients with some of their orofacial deficiencies, which is going to open up the airway, resolve the OSA, and lead to better health and wellness on the things that they're dealing with on a daily basis. This is a crucial insight that every dentist needs to know and understand. So this is the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine. This is their position statement, and this is not as important, this statement right here, as what I'm about to show you on the next page. I wanted to show you the source of this because this is from the official sort of academy statement here. But I want you to look at this. This is how we treat patients that are going through their OSA journey. And what I want you to focus on is that the physician responsibility is in the orange boxes, and the green responsibility is in the green boxes, and the blue is the green is actually the physician and the dentist together. What you get out of this is that the dentist, not the physician, the dentist is playing the central role in the treatment of OSA, and as well they should, because OSA is a medical condition with a medical resolution that's delivered by a dentist. That's a really important insight to have, that this is a medical condition. It has a medical resolution, but it's going to be delivered by the dentist. The dentist holds the key to the resolution of obstructive sleep apnea. And the American Dental Association has realized this for some time. In 2017, they came out with a position statement that says that dentists are encouraged, strongly encouraged, to screen their patients for sleep-related breathing disorders. And so every dentist in the country should be screening their patients already. Very, very few of them are. So the question is that after 25 years of pursuing the holy grail of tapping into this huge opportunity for doing sleep dentistry, why hasn't the profession embraced and succeeded with sleep dentistry? And the problems are, well known. First of all, how do I talk to my patients about their sleep and breathing? I don't even know what to say. So there's an educational component for both the professional and the patient. Patients don't expect to hear questions from their providers about sleep and breathing. So there's an educational element here that has to take place. Then how do I screen my patients? How do I determine whether the patients actually have this condition? How do I collaborate with a medical professional to give me a diagnosis and not steal my patient away? How then do I bill for this? How do I go through the completely different silo of medical billing that's not, you can't get to the medical side through the same clearinghouse that you do dental insurance How do I get to the medical insurance? How do I navigate that? How do I then have a communication set up with local providers, local medical doctors or other healthcare providers in my community? And how do I ultimately get the value communicated to my patient to make it worthwhile for my patient and for my practice, to make sure that we're doing something that's a value add for my patients, as well as something that I can turn profitable. Dentistry has never solved any of those problems until now. And so now Vivos has resolved every one of the obstacles that has historically plagued this market. We've got easy screening and diagnostics. It's easy to get your patients to understand what this is all about. We have all kinds of resources available to make that happen. We have nationwide medical and dental interface so that it's easy to get the medical diagnosis and the script to do this, to create an oral appliance. We have a superior technology. We are not just promulgating another also ran kind of mandibular advancement device. We have mandibular advancement that has a place in the treatment, but it's the only solution that dentists have had up until the time that Vivos has come to market. Now we have something that's vastly superior. We have medical billing available. We know how to get this bill. We bill millions of dollars a month in medical billing statements and claims for our doctors around the country. We have world-class comprehensive training. We have a proven practice systems and support. Look, I used to be a DSO operator. I've run hundreds of dental offices. I know your world. I know your challenges. We all here, all of us came out of the DSO space, and we know how to make this profitable and make it work. We can show you how to get higher case fees, high patient acceptance, get paid by the insurance companies, get paid by your patients, and to make this a win-win proposition all the way around. So let's just talk about how we make that happen. What we need to make this happen is lots of locations. We need your locations to be able to develop and deliver our resources to. And I'll just start with share with you what these resources are. You're seeing them here on the screen. But if you start here with the sleep image, that's the rings that get the patient to understand, hey, you've got a problem and it's going to kill you or it's going to make your life miserable until you fix it. Let us show you how to get that done. The Vivos Institute here, almost 18,000 square foot facility right here next to Denver International Airport. It's a beautiful facility. We feed you, we house you. I've got a group of over 100 dentists here this weekend, and they're going through training. They're getting themselves up and running. Their staff members are here. We got a beautiful facility. We do great world-class training here. Nuvia is where the medical doctors are partnering with dentists around the country to open up clinics featuring the Vivos technology and referring their patients in. I've got some amazing success stories going on out in California and in other places, but especially California with the Nuvia clinic model. We have a practice management software called Arrow 2 that helps you do the medical claims and billing, the dental claims as well. It's a beautiful software. It's fully compatible with all the medical billing requirements. We know how to get you billed. We know what to do there. I've got other practice and clinical advisory services, technical services, and then we have a full line of products as well, the DNA, the guides, the mRNA. We just need your skills. We need your locations. We'll bring the resources. You bring the skills, and with your skills and talent, your patients, we'll be able to solve a lot of healthcare problems for a lot of your patients.
So, Kirk, a couple of questions here real quick.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say then that you have your own lab that creates whatever's needed?
Yes, we have not only that, but we have what we call treatment navigators. So when a patient comes in, gets diagnosed, or even suspects that they might have sleep apnea, the dentist can hand that over to one of our treatment navigators who will walk that patient through their journey, make sure they get their sleep test, make sure they get the medical doctor to engage with them on a video call like we're having right now, make sure that they get the script, make sure that they get their insurance pre-authorizations, make sure that they get back to the doctor, the medical or the dentist with all this information in hand and all the education. All those things happen, but we have domestic and international labs that will fabricate the appliance.
So, and the next question, and this is going to be probably a little bit too simplistic, but it seems like what Vivos is trying to do is become the Invisalign for treating sleep issues, sleep apnea and other related issues. Like, to understand my comparison there and tell me what part.
No, I totally agree. We set this company up after the model that Invisalign laid down, which is you've got a huge untapped potential market. Take the company public. We're a publicly traded company. We trade on the NASDAQ. And because you have to be public in order to tap into enough financial resources. We've raised $80 million so far. We're probably going to raise another 100 million before we're done. And
you're saying, and all these dentists, right? They've got these locations all over the country. Yep. And you, rather than invest in the real estate, you guys built this technology, and now you want it, and your delivery system is through dentists.
Just exactly like Align does. Just exactly like Align does. Align takes their products. They have, if you've ever done an Align case, you do your clean check. You take the records, you do your clean check, you set the case up, the technicians help you, you get you place your order, you get the aligners fabricated, they come back, you place them with the patient, you make sure that everything's going and is all copacetic, you send the patient out the door, the patient comes back periodically for a new set of aligners or whatever. It's basically that same model, only what we're dealing with is life or death. And there's a larger financial component available for dentistry. This is much more profitable than doing aligners. So so this is our institute. Give you guys a little sense of what you're looking at here. Like I said, we feed, we instruct, we teach, we do all kinds of staff and doctor training. These are some of our students, some of our doctors there. Because what we have is the single most important breakthrough in dentistry since aligners, since Invisalign came out over 22 years ago with their product. I guess it's 23 years ago now. We are the single most important breakthrough in dentistry since aligners came out. We're also the single most important breakthrough in sleep medicine since CPAP. The medical community is beginning to wake up to what we're doing and how revolutionary this is. And that's why these medical doctors are partnering with local dentists in ownership model practices where the dentists and the physicians are owning clinics together. And it's a phenomenal thing, and it's blowing up. So, the medical gold standard for years and years has been CPAP. And now you see even kids being put into CPAP machines. It's hard to find anybody anymore that isn't either on CPAP or sleeping next to somebody on a CPAP or has somebody in their family on CPAP. These things are ubiquitous. They're out there everywhere, and it's deemed to be the gold standard, but it is universally despised and hated, and nobody wants to be wearing something like this to bed at night. But modern medicine is putting patients into lifetime therapy, and Vivos is offering them a way out. We can get people off of their CPAP machines. We do it every day, and we'll show you how. The clinical objectives for a CPAP patient is basically to temporarily reduce the OSA symptoms and repeat that every night for life. While Vivos, our clinical objectives is to establish and restore normal nasal breathing and eliminate the need for lifetime treatment. Now, dentistry looks more like the one on the left than it does on the right, because mandibular advancement works a lot the same way as CPAP. In order for a mandibular advancement device to work, it has to be deployed every night for life. Our technology, although we have mandibular advancement, because there's some price points where you have to just go to that level, but we have the technology to actually get patients completely well. And some patients want that. And so it gives you a different value proposition that medical doctors can't touch. They don't know how to do it. We teach and train doctors how to do that every day. So here's the thing with our technology. These are some highlights of what happens here with our patients. Up to, we said 40%. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. It's now up to 52% of patients, Vivos patients, complete treatment with no OSA symptoms. So we're getting better at how we're teaching and training and deploying our technology. It started out around 20%, then went to 28, then 34, then 40, and now 52%. Over half of the patients that are going through Vivos treatment today are actually finishing their treatment with no OSA symptoms. 97% report achieving their primary clinical objectives. 98% would refer a close friend or family member, and there's no lifetime intervention required. Well, let's just talk about dentistry's legacy OSA solutions. So in order to understand what we're doing and how it's different, this is mandibular advancement. This is the same individual. On the left, they have without an oral appliance, and on the right, they have an oral appliance. And you can see in these two images, this is CBCT images of the airway, and that airway has completely changed in terms of the size and shape of that airway. It's gone up by about a little over 50% in terms of the size and shape. And you can see, if you look carefully at this picture on the right, you can see that there is actually the framework, the metal framework of an oral appliance in place. So you can see that this, with the oral appliance, the airway went from 13.5 cubic centimeters to 20.4. AHI dropped to about 5. All right, so that's the legacy.
How much, looking at that analysis you've got in front of us, how long did it take for that type of progress to occur in this patient?
So this is not progress. This is pop this in your mouth, and all of a sudden your jaw comes forward, your lower jaw comes forward, and it opens up your airway. You see your tongue and your airway, the size and shape of it is determined by the placement of your upper and lower jaws. If the maxilla or the mandible or both are retruded, you're going to impinge on the pharyngeal space, the retroglossal space that is the airway. And so this is what happens when you pop in an oral, one of these devices. There's 200 of them on the market today that, you know, you can talk any one of these oral appliances. They're all effectively the same. That's
and they're designed to be worn just during sleep, or they need to be worn during the day as well?
No, these are intended to be nocturnal, wear them at night, pop it in before you go to bed, take it out in the morning type devices. Okay. Now, that's really interesting there. Mandibular advancement is good because it's relatively inexpensive. It's been proven effective. It does require nighttime use. There is medical coverage. There's minimal risks associated with it. But you got to know that the underlying OSA is going to get worse over time. We're not addressing the fundamental cause. What we're doing here is we're just temporarily, palliatively relieving the condition for a very limited period of time while you're sleeping, which is great. The problem is that this is not really good long-term. It creates open bites, it creates caries, it creates mouth breathers. It doesn't fix it does not fix the fundamental challenges. So here comes along Vivos with a unique oral appliance design that has lasting effects. It's a one-time treatment. You do it for, well, it's actually, I need to update the slide. This says 12 to 24 months. We're actually 9 to about 15 months now. We address the underlying cause. It's cost effective. There's medical insurance coverage. It is more expensive than what you just saw a minute ago. These are more expensive appliances. There's no increase in TMD, caries, infections, open bites, and HI is reduced. I need to really update my slide because it went from 34, it's now 52%. So HI is reduced. HI, by the way, for those of you who don't know, HI is apnea hypopnea index. That they basically count the number of times that your airway closes. And it's a little more complicated than this, but if it's effectively the number of times that you get an apnea event or a hypopnea and in an hour, and that gives you an index. And we're getting patients to where they have no OSA, and it's now about half the patients. Used to be 1 out of 4, then it went 1 out of 3, now it's 1 out of 2. And so that's what we do here. Here's our
question. Just question
yeah.
on that last slide.
Yeah.
The appliance itself. So you were stating that it's 12 to 24 months, although you said it's maybe 9 to 15 or so. It's come down as you guys have obviously been working on the delivery mechanism and everything. When we talk about that time frame, does that mean that they do not have to wear the appliance at night anymore at the end of that treatment time, or is there still some kind of maintenance that occurs?
It's exactly right, Ken. And I'm going to go through some cases, and I'm going to show you exactly sort of how this whole thing works. But that's exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. So here's our Vivos Care lineup. This is actually the Care appliances are the ones I just showed you. The ones in this is one of our line. We have like a dozen different iterations of this appliance. all FDA cleared for treating sleep apnea. It's the only appliance on the market today that has been cleared for sleep apnea without mandibular advancement as a primary mechanism of action. It's the only appliance. There's no other appliance in the world that has that clearance, because there's no other appliance in the world that does what this appliance does. So then we have the Versa appliance, which is a mandibular advancement configuration. We have guide appliances for kids, expanders. Here we go with addressing the underlying cause. Very cost effective. We've kind of covered all this. Here's the slide that I wanted to show earlier. So this is the 52% getting patients back to normal. So this is when they finish treatment. So we take an AHI with a sleep test before they start treatment, and then we take one after they finish treatment with no appliance in the mouth. That's the key. Every other technology, you have to have the CPAP has to be turned on, or the appliance has to be in place in order to measure the effectiveness. With us, we want to say in a natural state before and in a natural state after, how is their OSA? And we're getting half of the patients back to normal. So I'm going to show you this. This is just goes to show you a 30-year-old male with a severe sleep apnea. This guy is tall and thin, by the way. He was not obese. Had a severe case of sleep apnea because he didn't have enough room. You'll see this in a minute. Total volume of his airway doubled. You'll see that as we go here, and you'll see over the course of time here what happens. This is with treatment with no appliance in the mouth in either one of these things before and after. So you can see the different size pipe that he's breathing through and how much easier it would be for him to breathe at night without collapse of the airway with his new airway. That's 14 months of treatment right there. So that's very typical. We think we do sleep medicine right, and we think you can too. There's lots of ways for dentists to do this, lots of ways for DSOs to do this. The financial, look, I picked a number, $500,000 as representative. I've got doctors that have added $4 to $4.5 million to their practices, annual revenue wise, by taking on sleep apnea, really getting after it. I've got doctors that have added $1 million, $2 million. But if you just take a typical practice at Vivos that has been trained in our stuff, they add about $500,000 in revenue. They spend about 3 hours of chair time, DDS chair time per case. They do about $500,000 in new revenue, 70% gross margins. If you in a DSO setting, the doctor that's doing the treatment is going to add about $100,000 to his annual compensation. And each practice would add about $140,000, $150,000 of EBITDA to the bottom line. I don't know where you go in today's world to add those kind of numbers right out of the gate. I've got doctors that do that in the first year out of the gate. So it's very, very compelling. It's very, very, I won't say it's easy, because it's not easy. There's some training involved. There's sort of, you got to find chair time for these patients. You've got to make sure that you do this the right way. But if you do it, it's very, very profitable. It's very, very profitable.
So there's a question for you. Yeah. If I'm a doctor and I'm looking at this, and there's some compelling reasons to seriously consider this, obviously. What is that investment of time up front to, like, if I said today, okay, I want to get rolling, between needing to come out to your training center and things like that, what would you say a typical timeline would be before I'd be ready to start actually delivering this treatment modality or this therapy in my office?
We can get you up and running to get started within 2 weeks, and you can get off to the races within the first 30 days. I'll tell you a little story. The guy who's the third from the left, he's standing in the front row there. He's a doctor from here in Colorado. He came to our course in April of 2019, so pre-COVID. He came to our course in April, and I saw him again in December. And I said, "How are you doing?" He said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "It looks like, from the production reports, you're really doing well." He said, "I love what I'm doing here." He said, "Kirk, we've done $837,000 in the since we went through training." And I went back and calculated. It's basically 8 months. He did $837,000 in his first 8 months in the thing. That guy is doing over $4 million a year. So this group of doctors that are here on this page, this group of doctors, all of them are significant producers. I won't tell you how much. This one in the middle with the striped sweater, I'm going to show her in a minute, just to give you a sense of this. But all these guys do hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in Vivos annually. Some of them do it. There's orthodontists, there's periodontists, there's general dentists, there's pediatric dentists, there's all kinds of dentists in this group. This is just a sampling of some of the doctors that we have, and anybody can learn to do this. This is not rocket science.
Yeah, Kirk, we've got a couple of questions coming in from the group, which, by the way, it's a great time. We've got an engaged group right now. So hopefully, do you want to take a minute and wrap up, or do you want me to jump into some of these questions?
Let me wrap up with a couple of cases, and then we'll take all the questions at once. How's that?
Yeah. Okay. So hang tight there, guys.
Hang tight, guys. We'll get to your questions. I promise. Let me blitz through a couple of cases here for you. I want you to see this. I want you guys to look very carefully at this woman. She's actually an employee of mine. And I want you to look at her husband died of a massive heart attack that was caused by his obstructive sleep apnea. She became a widow at 48. She came to us and we hired her. She went into treatment 5 months after her husband passed away with an AHI of 52. For those of you who are aware, that's an incredibly severe case of obstructive sleep apnea. She went into treatment in April of 2018. By November, 7 months later, it was mild sleep apnea, and today it's 0. Now, you'll see that she's lost a little weight. You'll see lots of patients do lose weight as they go through this treatment because your body metabolizes the lipids and does all that sort of thing better. I'm going to show you this. This is her actual airway, as you see her airway that she starts with, and you'll see the size of the airway as it contrasts and compares with her airway post-treatment. You'll see how it changed the volume of the airway. You'll see how it actually, from a couple of different angles here, you'll see how she's got bigger pipes to breathe through. And you're going to see from the top down now, you'll see transpalatal width has actually expanded by about 3 millimeters. You'll see what that does to her airway in terms of both the size and shape of it. It's this green grid over here that on both, that's her airway looking down the chute. And now you can see just once again how before and after what her airway looks like and what her AHI looks like in both of those cases. So I'm going to show you one other case, and then I'm going to wrap this up, and then we can do some. This is one of our doctors. She was the gal in the striped sweater in the first row. This is her in 2011 as a recent graduate, big gummy smile, chronic migraine headaches, no energy during the day, not able to make it through a full day of production, bronchitis, all kinds of issues. That was her 15 months after starting treatment. This is her a year ago. So this is her airway in 2011, her airway in 2013. You can see the changes in size and shape, and then her airway in 2019. This does not relapse. This is not something that goes backwards. Here's her airway, 2011, 2013, and actually you see the tongue, her tongue continuing to drive transpalatal width by continuing to do what its function is, even after we stopped treatment in 2013. This is the new bony growth that we created in her jaws. There's asymmetry that was there before. It kind of self-corrected. You can see after we stopped treatment, the new bony growth stops. Who else does that? Medical doctors can't do it. Anybody out there? We train dentists to do that every day. Now, one more case here. This is a gal with 118 AHI. That's a near-death experience every night. Now, you can see her teeth have a lot more space in between them. We're actually creating larger dental arches. The alveolar ridge is growing. Her teeth are changing. Her occlusion is going to change, and we take care of that. But she's got no sleep apnea. She went from, and she did not lose weight. Here's another gal with an AHI that went down to 2. That's it right there. So let's just stop the presentation there because I'm almost done anyway. And let's take some questions. So
okay, this first question's coming in from a DSO. I actually know this individual. I think they probably have 10 or 15 practices at the moment. And his question is, if they want to move forward with this, do all of the associate doctors need to come to Colorado to go through training, or is there some way that you can accommodate, larger DSOs to get this onboarded faster than that, or maybe avoiding the cost of travel?
We can take this training on the road. We've actually done that a time or two. We had a large
You
DSO.
so you do want each doc to go through the training.
Well, we do want the doctors so there's a hub and spoke model that a lot of these DSOs are going to, where they'll train specialists, or they'll train doctors that they want to be the sleep specialists. And then they'll have, if they've got a group of practices in a particular community, they'll have one or two trained Vivos doctors, and then the other ones will refer, just like you would refer out a root canal, molar root canal, or maybe a oral surgery case. They will refer over to their other office where the sleep specialty team works at, and they'll just do that way. So there's lots of ways for a DSO to participate and to construct a model that works for that DSO. And it's possible for every DSO practice to have a specialist in it, but I don't know that that's going to work for most of them, frankly. It just depends on how aggressive they want to be. There are 50% of the patients walking through their hygiene departments, their clinics every day that have this condition, and the issue is, how many of those do we really want to go after?
Right. Okay, makes sense. The next one is, when a doctor goes through this training, do you recommend that they have staff come with them to learn some of the
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So walk us through your recommendation on that.
Absolutely. I have, like I said, there's probably over 100 dentists or 100 people here today. I don't know how many of them are dentists. Most of them are dentists. Most of them have brought staff members with them, and it's anywhere from one staff member to 8 staff members. The more staff involvement and engagement you can get, the better you're going to do. There's a direct correlation between the training of your staff and the success of the program. And I realize that creates a little bit of an expense and a cost, but it really does pay off in spades. And the ROI is so fast on this for a DSO I mean, within the first 30 days, you got your training money back, and unless you just stumble badly coming out of the gate, the cost of treatment can be anywhere from a low of about $3,500 to a high of maybe $12,000. And so it really depends on your demographic and your local economic environment, whether you're going to treat kids or adults or both. There's lots of different ways to structure this, but there's a lot of opportunity out there for the DSO to take advantage of. So
another question that's coming in, what about, somebody that's a D4, just signed up with a DSO, they've been going for, let's say 6 months as a provider. Do you have success stories on, these early doctors, or is it more, seasoned doctors that are, adopting these and being the most effective with these therapies?
We have successful doctors across the board. I mean, we have young doctors that have come out, and they very quickly realized that they're not getting the same thrill out of that MOD filling and that they used to, and that they're really starting to feel burnout because of all the production that they're doing, and they're looking for something different. This is akin to orthodontics. I mean, there is a little bit of an ortho bent to this whole thing. You're using an oral appliance, you're moving teeth, you're working with occlusion, but we have the training and the mentoring. I mean, every dentist that comes through here gets assigned a mentor doctor. So you've got somebody that's got your back at every stage of the game, from patient selection to case acceptance, to pitching the case, to closing the case. We actually have the resources. We built this company with the idea of helping the typical general dentist succeed at this thing. So whether it's a medical billing issue, whether it's a clinical issue, a difficult case, an average typical case, we have the resources to help any dentist. If you got a license and you can cut a crown, you can do this. You can do this.
Very nice. All right. So I'm getting some questions around the cost. Like, so what's my cost if I want to become a Vivos certified? I don't know what the right terminology is, but it's a certified provider of the Vivos therapies.
Well, so we charge independent dentists about $50,000 to become a Vivos provider. We really truly invest in our providers. We charge them a lot of money to become a Vivos provider because we don't want riffraff doing this. We're playing with people's lives, not just their teeth. And we don't want anybody that's not going to do this the right way to do it. But with the DSOs, we've cut that price substantially. So it's $12,500 for a DSO office, as long as the DSO signs up at least 2 offices to do a pilot. So if a DSO, like we've got pilots with some of the largest DSOs in North America, both in Canada and the US. And in Canada, for example, they started with 30 or 35 offices, I can't remember. But in other places, they've just gone with maybe 3 to 5 offices or something like that. As long as the DSO starts with 2, then we'll drop the price to $12,500. There is a limit to what we can do on that, just because there's so much training that goes into this. But like I said, we can get somebody up and running within a couple of weeks, doing cases, starting the journey, beginning to do some of the easier cases, beginning to evaluate the patients, beginning to screen using our Vivos Score rings and all of that. So it's not prohibitively expensive. There's good profit margins available for the dentists as they sell these cases to their patients. It's high profit margin work and it's highly accretive.
Outstanding. Let's see, I'm getting a question. Okay. This is a great question because I think you've done such a phenomenal job kind of explaining the entire background. I've got one DSO leader who's saying, how do I get my hands on a 1-page summary that I can take to my executive team? And I can get them, some initial exposure to this without going through the entire, 1-hour episode.
So I think, guys, let me go through, hold on just a second here, because I think see the fellow here, the guy that heads up my DSO initiative, his name is David Howard. David may even be on the call, I don't know, but David is he heads up all of our Vivos initiatives for the DSO space. This is David's number, that's his email address, and I think the QR code is for other purposes, but with David you can get access to any resources. We've written a white paper on this for DSOs. We have resources here. You guys, I have DSO representatives here this weekend getting their training. So we mix the DSO groups together. If we have enough of a single DSO group, we took our training on the road to Canada. When they signed up 35 offices, we took our training on the road to Canada, and we did this all up there because it was going to be cheaper for them, for us to go there with that many offices than it was for them to come down to Colorado. But we have our facility right outside the DIA airport, Denver International Airport, easy in and out, easy training, a great experience. And
David Howard is on, and he just said that the QR code will take you to a white paper. And I think that vivos.com/DSO also takes you to that same content. So for those that are just listening on the podcast, you can go to the vivos.com/DSO, and then I'll just say this out loud, or D Howard, DHOWARD at vivoslife.com. That's VIVOSLIFE.com. Because we are going to have some that are just listening to this on a podcast format. Okay, a couple more questions coming in, Kirk.
Good. Let's
really appreciate you fielding all these. This has been a great
problem.
What percentage of treatment is typically covered by insurance versus patient portion or a patient pay?
Well, that's a great question, and it depends widely on the type of insurance policy that the patient has, the carrier that they have, and
it just depends their benefits, right? It's
So on let's just say an $8,500 treatment plan, which is pretty typical. price point, they'll get about $4,500 from their carrier. They might get 6,000 or 7,000. I've seen checks as high as that. We've actually had some providers charge roughly $12,000 to $15,000. I've seen checks for $14,000 from the insurance carrier. So it just really depends. You can count on average, about half of the cost of this being paid by insurance, and about half of it being paid out of pocket by the patient.
Outstanding. Okay. I believe those are all of the questions. Kirk, we've got maybe just a couple minutes left. Are there any, just after hearing these questions and obviously, having been in the DSO industry, I'd love to ask you this, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give to these, groups that are trying to figure out how to grow, how to add locations, or, how to increase the revenue inside their centers? What would be your kind of takeaway advice?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Dentistry continues to see its margins being squeezed by the payers. Dentistry continues to see patient erosion. Dentistry continues to see the commoditization of its services. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's offering the same kind of thing. And really, if a DSO is going to compete, they've got to find a way to differentiate. And there's what better way to differentiate than by offering something that other people aren't offering. I mean, if you want to attract patients and you keep patients, and you want to retain your patients, retaining your staff, we have a program for hygiene. We have a program for hygienists, just to show you an example of this very quickly, where you can actually incentivize your hygienists to put these little rings out there and get these patients engaged in a dialogue about their sleep. That will be one of the most profitable things that a hygienist does for the practice, as well as a bonus that gives the hygienist the opportunity to make an extra $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000 a month if they're really aggressive with it. So if you want to retain your hygienists without costing you more money, you want to attract hygienists that are the cream of the crop. They want to do more than just picking and flicking. They want to do the real thing. They want to get involved in myofunctional therapy. They want to get involved in some of these other things that are sleep related. They want to get involved in whole health for their patients. They care about them. They love their patients. And if you want to attract the best hygienists and the best teams, then sleep is a perfect way to do that without it costing you a bunch of money. So there's lots of programs we have for both patient acquisition, staff acquisition and retention, recruitment programs. We can help you in any way. We've lived in that world, so we know how you guys operate and what you need. So let us help you and give us a chance to customize a program that will help. And we're happy to come out and do that.
Fantastic. Well, Kirk, cannot thank you enough as just being a leader in the DSO space and bringing your expertise to help create some differentiation opportunities to whichever offices decide to come your way. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, no problem. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody.
All right. And many, many thanks to all of you who have joined. I hope that all of you start to look at this, take this seriously. And again, just a reminder, the Growth Summit is coming. Ticket prices are going up the longer you wait until it goes live in June. So make sure you get those tickets to the Growth Summit. Come find me there. Kirk, I think you'll probably be there. Come find Kirk, come hang out with us. And this is a wrap on all things sleep apnea treatment in the dental world, and signing off.
There you go. Thank you.